Sabres Live is presented by Seneca Resorts and Casinos. Nothing else comes close.
We are going to overtime!
It's the prospect edition of Sabres Live Overtime, Marty. And for good reason, we'll be having Kris Baker joining us here momentarily.
Yeah, I love Bakes, and his insight is always really, really good. Now, I'll tell you this. I said Devin Levi. We're going to talk about him. Watching the Beanpot final Monday night, I was impressed. It made me think of Ryan Miller a little bit, coming out of Michigan State and having that time in Rochester and the impact that he's had here in Buffalo, obviously. But did you know, Duffer, the first ever goalie to win the Hobie Baker Award was obviously not Ryan Miller. It was Rob Stauber. Mm-hmm. Rob Stauber was the first goalie in college hockey to win the Hobie Baker Award. I found that out yesterday. I'm bringing that to the table today.
And you just did. And we talked about his son, Jackson, very recently, as he has made his foray into the NHL this year with the Hawks. And when you're serious about the game, bet on Buffalo at the only sports books in Western New York. Seneca Resorts and Casinos betting counters are open daily. Self-service betting kiosks available 24/7 at all three locations, whether you visit Seneca, Niagara, Allegheny, or Buffalo Creek. Sports Lounge features the latest lines and multiple screens, so you never miss a play. The sports book at Seneca Resorts and Casinos, where the love of the game meets the thrill of the win. Mr. Baker, it is long overdue. Nice to see you again. How are things?
Going well. We're in the doldrums of the season. You know, it's like the World Juniors are done and we're just kind of waiting for the playoffs to happen, but I'm not bored. Plenty to look at in hockey wise. And I'm happy to be here with you guys today.
With the warm weather spell, I feel like the golfer in you wants to go out there right now.
Marty, you have no idea. I got the note from my club pro yesterday that they're allowing walkers out today. Yeah. But there's no place I'd rather be than right here, right now with both of you fine gentlemen.
Well, maybe on the golf course with Duffer and I would be a better place. We could do that live walking the fairway.
I'm depressed enough. I don't need that in my life.
I'm always down for that. What's up?
Devin Levi is fresh off a Beanpot win. What have you seen from his entire season to date?
You know, it's really interesting. He had a high watermarks, from last year to kind of live up to this year. Outstanding save percentage, goals against average was just spectacular last season. So the bar was clearly high. And I like that he went back to school because he knew that there was pressure. This is a kid who wants to perfect his craft. And part of that is dealing with the pressure of leading his team back into the NCAA tournament this year. There were goals that were, I thought, maybe a little uncharacteristic of him that he allowed early in the year. A lot of jam plays, some things that he can't always control, but he's really got it together. If you go back and you look at New Year's Day, Harvard hung 8 goals on him. Yeah. Since then, I think he's run off in a 9-game stretch. He's allowed 1 goal or less in 5 of those games. Save percentage after that 8-goal shellacking, save percentage over 95%. He's right at the ship. I know that Beanpot win isn't really a win. It goes down as a tie, but he's picked up 7 wins in 9 starts since then. So he's a really, really incredible prospect to me. And keep in mind, okay, in the role that I'm in, I try to kind of temper expectations a little bit. You don't want to bestow these. I don't want to be misleading to anyone, but the fact of the matter is he's special. He really is. For a goaltender that's 6 feet, 185 pounds. I don't know. Was Kevin Adams on with you guys and you mentioned his waist size? Did he mention that to you? He's got like a 40-inch waist. I mean, he is just kind of a freak even there. His waist is, I don't know where I picked that up, but I mean, it's just kind of, that's another stat to kind of throw in. It's almost like my favorite stat about him, but
like quarterbacks with hand size and the ball, right? Like a goalie with a large waist can field boxing in the net. That's interesting.
It's wild, but I'm glad that you mentioned quarterback though, because kind of Duffer's asking, what have you seen from him? He is, with an NFL quarterback, you want that prospect that wants to perfect his craft. I think that Levi's the same way, doing virtual reality work to improve his puck tracking. Everything's kind of leading up to him just being an excellent prospect. But, the goaltending nuts and bolts itself, I mean, he's so quick with his shuffling. He's always square to the shooter. When he goes down, he pops back up on his feet. I think it keeps him bigger when he pops back up. But, his confidence, coming out and challenging, holding his edges. He's so patient. I mean, everything, people are always going to talk about his size, but literally everything that he's doing in the crease and outside of the blue paint, where he spends a lot of time, that that's what leads me to say that he really is an incredible prospect. But again, he's at the collegiate level. That slate gets clean when he turns pro. But he has a lot of promise right now.
Everybody asks me, oh, when is Devin Levi going to be ready for the NHL? And I like to, again, temper expectations as you do. I say, well, he played an extra year of midget AAA hockey because he felt like at the time he didn't want it, but then looking back, he says, I needed it. And he went back to college for an extra year, because he wanted that challenge. So I'm not saying he will take his time maybe in Rochester and developing, but I think we got to expect that he likes to have that extra time to develop and be fully ready. So I like to say at least 2 years, right? Before we think Devin Levi for Buffalo. I don't know if you have some type of projection with you when you look at goalies and prospect, when the time would come for him to be Sabres and ready for that.
Yeah, I think that, and we've kind of talked about this in past appearances that I've made with you, where there are analytics that suggest a number of minutes that they would ideally have him serve in the AHL before ascending to the NHL level. I think ideally, Kevin Adams and his staff, all the way down to Seamus Kotick as a goaltending development coach, they would like to execute that plan and get as many of those minutes in the AHL as possible. But the fact of the matter is that he could overachieve and make his way up sooner than we would think. I like your timeline. I think it's prudent, Marty, to say 2 years, honestly, because every level up requires an adjustment. And the speed of the game is going to be different. The strength and the crease and the pressure is going to be different. The reality is that, it's going to be interesting to see when it comes to the contract too, is like, when can he start that AHL run, right? Because if he signs an NHL deal, let's assume that there's leverage that his advisor has, and they can get the meter running on his NHL contract this year, right? Which would preclude him from going to Rochester. Ideally though, he's an interesting cat, right? He's very intelligent. He's, he might be realistic about it and say, I'll sign an entry-level contract with Buffalo beginning in 23-24, and I'll sign an ATO and go down and get that Rochester ramp-up started, start accruing those requisite minutes. But I don't want to articulate any kind of thought that puts him in Buffalo next year, and I think it's best to leave it at that, right?
As far as the young Americans are concerned, and they are definitely that, which prospect have you been most impressed with in Rochester?
Yeah, the obvious answer, I think, is Kulik. Okay, and we can talk a little bit about him. The shot rate, he fires a lot of pucks. He's producing. I don't really see him hitting a wall yet, where maybe Isak Rosén has hit a little bit of a wall, which should be expected. He's a 19-year-old kid playing North American professional hockey for the first time. It's a massive cultural adjustment, as well as the hockey itself is an adjustment. I really like Lucas Rusek. I think that he's been just steady Eddie from start to finish. He's earning what he gets in terms of ice time. He's a reliable 3-zone player. He puts the work in, because then you start seeing the separation of the prospects. I think Kulik's a guy that's going to score points. Lucas Rusek, we're not sure if he's going to score points, but he's always going to contribute. And you need those role players. So I think he deserves a shout out. I was really pleased to see him get the AHL All-Star honor as recognition of the work that he's put to year to date. Those are the two that really stand out, though. It'll be interesting to see, though. I want to see kind of Rosén get it back up here as we get a little bit closer to the playoff push and get him scoring goals, contributing offense again. And I'm not trying to say that he's fallen off a cliff. He hasn't. He just started really well, and he set a bar high to maintain that rate. So he has some work to do to kind of get back up to where he was maybe the first 15, 20 games from a points per game perspective.
When you talk about Kulik or Rosén and those guys, are you seeing a difference in their physical game? And I'm just saying because they're not big players. I was a skinny goalie, but it didn't matter. All I had to do was stop a little puck, right? Those guys, they have to get involved physically into the game. Are you seeing a change or maybe a step forward in that development physically in their game?
I saw it with Rosén early, where he made a couple plays that are just etched in my mind, where he went to the net and he scored goals in front of the net, where a lot of what we saw with him on the larger ice was a trigger man from sharp angles. Now he kind of defaulted back to that at the World Juniors. And when I was on with Duffer during that tournament, I was like, hey man, you got to get him inside. Let's get him back inside. Kulik, what he did as a 17-year-old in the Czech League, he was just crashing the middle lane. He was just going, and that's kind of his game. And he was, he's got a little bit of cockiness along the boards. I think he always had that. So when you talk about that physical, the characteristics changing, I really look at a guy like that's more of a finesse player in Rosane. And I think that you want to see more of that out of him, because you're not going to survive on the perimeter. I'm not saying that's what he is, but he needs to hit those dirty areas more if he wants to carve out an NHL career. And that maybe comes with strength development and then the confidence that comes with having the frame to get that job done in the tough areas.
A lot of Canadian Hockey League players to discuss. Obviously, it would start with last year's first rounder in Matt Savoie. By all accounts, especially in the last month or so, has just kind of rounded off his game. Is that a fair statement? I mean, he just seems to be garnering the right attention for the right areas.
Yeah, he is. I think when you look at his season from, the start to where he's at now, he's definitely producing more points. So if you're looking at just the stats, you're noticing that. The reality, though, with his season, because he's a speed player, right? Everything's fast. And we talked about that on draft night. Everything's fast, bang, bang. His skating unlocks a lot of good things that he can create for his teammates. More pucks are going in for him now. He's changed his shot angle this year. He was toying with his shot, just different release points. And that was kind of maybe leading to him not scoring at the beginning of the year. I think he's adjusted to that. The fact of the matter is with Savoie is that even when he wasn't producing at the same clip, this was a kid, he produced, I think, 1.38 points per game last year in his draft year. He's at that rate right now because of the work that he's done in the past 2 months. He was always making elite plays. From game one, even when he went back, he just wasn't scoring a lot. The pucks weren't going in for him. It was easy to judge and say maybe he was struggling when in my eyes, he wasn't. As someone who was watching a lot of his games, pucks are going in more. That team is, so the Winnipeg Ice, #1 in the CHL right now. They are loaded. Savoie is playing on a line with Zach Benson, I think McLennan, who's an undrafted 20-year-old. The matchups are really hard. That team's going to continue to cruise. They can spread out the scoring, though. Savoie doesn't have to be the guy that does it every night.
Right.
So, but I like what I see with him. And just, it's not always about the speed that we talk about. I think everybody who's following, at least casually, knows he's an undersized player, is very fast. What a lot of fans might not know is that he is not afraid to use his body to make plays, to separate guys from the puck and win battles. He'll go in like a ball of fire on the forecheck, hit a guy to win a battle. That's the mentality that you want. That's what I'm looking for right now. And he's playing junior. What's he doing without the puck? What's he doing to get the puck? Because we know when he gets the puck, he's going to do good things.
Yeah, he's pretty special. We saw it in development camp a little bit, or rookie camp or whatnot. But because he didn't play in development camp. But yeah, he's pretty special with the puck. And I like that there's more to his game to need to be developed. Okay, let's go to my former junior team. At the time, we were called the Hull Olympics. Now it's the Gatineau Olympics. Same thing. They just changed the town name. Olivier Nadeau. He's in his last year. Presumably he could play as an overager next year, but I don't think he will. He's only got 18 games played this year, but 16 goals. Like, that's a high rate of goals per game. What have you seen out of Nadeau in his limited time this season?
It didn't take him any time to get going. He scored, I think, in his first game back, and he's kind of kept scoring, to your point. I think so fans of the Amerks that maybe watch Philip Cederquist, I think you're kind of getting a similar player, very heavy player beneath the goal line. Obviously, he's very good around the net. That's where he makes his money. The gains in his game since being drafted, to me, have come in to improve skating, and there's still the skating mechanics. Okay. I don't think he's ever going to be a very fast player. His skating mechanics is at first, 2-3 step acceleration have improved. He's working on his shot from range, because he knows that he's going to need to be a guy that can shoot pucks. He's not going to be a guy that just does wraparounds and cleans up garbage, rebounds, right? What I like about him, though, historically, if you go back to when he played in Shawinigan last year, he's always played with high skill guys, despite maybe not being the fastest guy. He has a role. So he played with Bourgault and he played with Maverick Bourque last year. Those are two guys that are doing very well in the AHL this year. This year in Gatineau, he's playing with Riley Kidney and Alexis Gendron, who's both NHL draft picks, high skill guys, faster players. He knows what his role is. He can create space. Very good at winning one-on-one battles on the boards, puts the work in, and he sacrifices those guys that will go down. I put a clip up the other night on my Twitter feed. He went down to block a shot, defending, the extra attacker. Little things like that. I like that. You need guys like that to win. I want to find more highlights like that and clip them and show. I'm tired of showing this guy scored a goal. I want to show more blocked shots, and you see that from Nadeau. And it wasn't just that one time. I just happened to catch that one time.
How good is his team?
They're loaded right now after the deadline. So right now, Quebec, where Komarov is right now, they're leading the way. I think Gatineau's going to make a really good run though, and I think that they're tight, they're loaded. Mm-hmm. It's the Q, so it's going to be you got to score goals, and they can score goals.
Quick word on Josh Bloom.
Yeah, I love him as a role player. So, he's a guy who started off really well after the trade to North Bay. I think he's only got maybe like 1 goal in his last 6 or 7, but it doesn't matter because he's another guy where I'm looking at everything else he does. Mm-hmm. Playing left wing, he's got good line mates for North Bay, speed out of the zone, penalty killing, but he can score when he gets the puck. So I'm not, again, not judging him on his production rate. I'm judging him on what he does between the highlights, as we like to say. Skating ranks very well. Work rate on the boards, ability to win battles, very good defensive stick. He's a smart player, middle of the lineup guy, ceiling. But I like the player a lot, and I think he's going to do. He and Nadeau in the AHL next year. I like them with maybe like a Tyson Kozak. Let's start talking about that right now. Those are 3 guys that can defend against really skilled forwards in the opposition, clean up their own zone, and actually produce offense when they get to advance the puck up ice.
And last for me, Topias Leinonen, obviously 2nd round pick last year, goaltender. Did not get to see a lot of him here in Buffalo this summer. And then what's the season like? I know it's hard for younger goaltenders in Europe to know are you playing top league? Are you playing U20? Are you playing second league? What's the development path for him, and what's he like this year?
Yeah, they're going to take their time with him. I think it's clear. He's had some limited work in Liga this year with JYP. He doesn't, it's what's interesting is that statistically, he's been one of the best goalies in the under 20 league over there, but he doesn't see a lot of shots. It's like the shots on goal are really low. I wish they were higher. I want that kid to just get shelled and see as much rubber as possible. In terms of the prospect though, the table is set for him to compete on their under 20 World Junior team next year. I think the expectation is that he'll be there this year. So, and I think he'll be in Liga a lot more next year. Okay. Big kid, moves well. We kind of like what we saw of him is kind of what he's shown this year. He's got to eliminate the bad goals, just like any young goaltender, just smooth out the consistency, work to track the puck a lot better. Little things like that. They're going to take their time with him, but the raw skill set is there. It's not just size. He moves well, but he doesn't move like Devin Levi. That's for sure. Or Luukkonen for that matter, right? Like, I'm starting to look at, you want to compare and contrast all these guys. And it's like, I think the biggest thing that's going to stand out when people really get broader exposure to Levi versus what they see with Luukkonen is the way they move. Luukkonen still, and Marty, we can geek out all day on this, so I'll cut it short, but it's like, I still feel Luukkonen's got a little bit of that tightness in his hips, right? I don't see a lot of that from Leinonen, and I don't see that from Levi especially.
Do you see Levi as being kind of like Saros? Because every time I see highlights and I watch Devon Levi, I'm thinking you see Saros. Not a tall goaltender, incredibly fast, incredibly athletic, and just a game changer.
Quick legs, they get their side to side, and they're aggressive in how they come out.
Jim Corsi used to always say, man, you guys have beautiful legs. He goes, I don't mean it in the sense of beautiful legs, but you got beautiful legs. So Devon Levi has beautiful legs. I should say that. Yes,
he does.
Why do I feel like Levi is that much bigger than Saros? I don't know why. I know Saros is what he is, but he always seems smaller than he is to me.
The yellow pads.
I do feel like his equipment is rather large, but it's only because he's a smaller goaltender. But Noah Östlund got healthy just in time for the World Juniors this year. Have you enjoyed his progress throughout the season as he tries to get his club back to top level?
Yeah, point per game player since returning from the World Juniors. So 13 points in 13 games since getting back. And, a precision player, a pure distributor. But I like the speed, the pace of play that he plays at. I like the way that he helps out his defensemen. In the World Junior tournament, where a lot of people saw him, how many lob passes did he have out of the zone, sending guys on and springing them on breakaways? You don't do that unless you're deep in the zone supporting the play. But I like his pace of play. I think that, and Duff Rice said it to him, and I say it again. I think the hockey world is going to know Noah Östlund a lot more this time next year after he's leading Sweden's charge at the World Juniors next year in their home country, in Gothenburg. That Sweden team's going to be they're going to be ready to go at that tournament, and he's going to play a big part in that. But no, precision passing. I wanted to shoot the puck more. I want him to start shooting the puck more.
Well, that's one. I mean, it's nice that that's one area, though, that you can distinctly look at as we move forward here in the next year to just, evaluate. Does he take opportunities? I just think he's so smart. Everything you've ever said about him speaks to that. And it's almost natural to think now, once he just goes a little further along here, especially against, the next level up, so to speak, at some point the shooting will come. Last one for me real quick is Ryan Johnson, more so in the bigger picture of collegiate players, their rights, their value. We have a trade deadline coming up. A lot of people have wondered, like, if Ryan Johnson doesn't end up signing with the Sabres, is there a value in this prospect that can still be, captured via trade? Like, how do you view Johnson's career at Minnesota and what lies ahead for him and the Sabres here?
Yeah, I think that there would be some interest in him, and I think there would be interest if the Sabres want to. I mean, look, they need defensemen, okay? And by the way, if you look at the draft last year and you're trying to send a message to Ryan Johnson that, hey, we want you, no better way than to send that message than to not take too many defensemen when you have, like, what do they have, like 30 picks last year? You know what I'm saying? I'm being ridiculous, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So I think, though, that the Sabres still maintain their interest in him. He should see opportunity in Buffalo. I don't care if it's top 4 opportunity. He should see opportunity here. What do you have in the pipeline?
I agree.
So, but with that said, if they can't come to terms and he is a senior, I think there would be interest. They would get a 31st pick in the second round as compensation. So that pretty much tells you if you can flip them for a second that's better than 31st. Okay, might be worth looking at, right? But I think there's interest there. I think that he is just a very smart. The skating game with him that's the hallmark of his game. It's NHL level skating. Strength is there. I don't see any real deficiencies with his game. I think he would fit in really well in Buffalo. And I'm still kind of focused on that scenario.
And just because you guys mentioned the college free agents and the possibility of that, and I know this is going to be a wide brushing type of a question, but any college free agents we should be paying attention to that the names are going to come up in the rumor mill now as the season is a month or a month and a half away from college being over?
I'm still formulating my list. There's a couple of defensemen that I've been looking at. There's one up at Minnesota Duluth. It's always the Minnesota schools, and I won't give up. I mean, we don't need another forward here necessarily, but I won't give up on Parker Ford from Providence. I still think that he is just a kid who's going to play if he's given the opportunity. Smaller guy, but very fast, very smart. I like those guys. It's the same reason why I like Noah Östlund. I like the fast guys. I don't need to score a ton of goals, but they just get their job done and play defense. Those are those unsung guys. I put Parker Ford in that bucket. But no, there's a couple guys there, but like the defenseman, I'm not ready to kind of go there just yet. But I think the Sabres will be active when they kind of hone in on that. I mean, look, there's another month? What is it? February 15th? Another month plus. Yeah. NCAA tournament's going to start March 23rd. We'll start talking more about those names here in the next couple of weeks.
I love that foreshadowing. He's ahead. He got the list ready to go. It's in pencil right now. It will be in pen in 6 weeks. I love it.
All he's doing is.
There were 2 guys last year that I had on the list and they didn't come out. They're going to be on the list again. Let's just say
that. And we are now obligated to make sure that you come back at the proper time when this free agent season begins for these players. Bakes, great stuff as always. Thank you so much.
Hey, love you boys.
A signing that I know Bakes would probably be pretty happy about too, Marty, is one of our guys, Mikey Anderson, collegiate champion twice with Minnesota Duluth. In fact, his second one came right here in Buffalo, and he's got himself the Samuelsson deal, right? He's got the 8-year extension. Well, Samuelsson 7, but you know what I'm saying? It's the $4 million. And I think another sign of just, we ended talking about Ryan Johnson and who knows what Johnson's future is. There can be a lot of these types of franchise gems, but it doesn't have to be superstar player, right? It's about development.
doesn't have to be Drew Doughty or Dahlin or Power. It could be Samuelson. It could be Mikey Anderson. Maybe he got rewarded on the 8th year, the extra year, because he got Sidney Crosby to take his first ever game misconduct in his career. So it was 7 years at 4.1. And because he got Crosby to get tossed out, hey, you know what, Mikey? We'll get you that 8th year. There you go. So a great signing, another kind of prospect that had to wait his time and work his way up to the big league and getting rewarded with a nice contract.
Sources say he actually asked for 4 years at 8.7 in honor of Crosby, but it didn't quite materialize. We will look forward to having Bakes on again very soon, and we'll see you soon on Sabres Live.